reason. We have a meeting with President Putin tomorrow. I think it's going to be a good meeting, but the more important meeting will be the second meeting that we're having. We're going to have a meeting with President Putin, President Zelensky, myself, and maybe we'll bring some of the European leaders along, maybe not. I don't know that it's going to be very important. We're going to see what happens. And I think President Putin will make peace. I think President Zelensky will make peace. We'll see if they can get along. And if they can, it'll be great. You know, I've solved 6 wars in the last 6 months, a little more than 6 months now, and I'm very proud of it. I thought the easiest one would be this one. It's actually the most difficult. We had one war raging, as you know, for 37 years. One in the Congo with Rwanda was raging for 31 years. We solved 6 of them, made peace, not just solved them, we made peace. If you look at Pakistan and India, planes were being knocked out of the air. 6 or 7 planes came down. They were ready to go. Maybe nuclear, we solved that. I thought this would be maybe an easier one. It never made sense, this war. It would have never happened when I was president. If I were president, this war would have never happened. But millions of people have been killed. And I'm there for one reason, to see if I can solve. This was Biden's war. This isn't my war. I want to see if I can stop the killing. Yeah.
But rare earths, do you plan to offer him access to that at all?
We have great rare earth. We made that as payment for all of the money that we've spent so foolishly in Ukraine. We spent $350 billion. Now Europe spent $1 billion. That's a lot of money. They spent $100 billion. That's a lot of money. But we shouldn't be spending a lot more money than them, and they understand that. And I think that's maybe why we're not spending money anymore. We're not spending any money. They're paying us for everything. So people are shocked when they hear it. They don't even understand. They don't even write about it. But we're not spending money. But we are spending a lot of time trying to get the war solved. If we can get the war solved, we'll be very happy. As far as rare earth, that's very unimportant relative to, I'm trying to save lives.
On DC crime, do you
have a message for the Democrat lawmakers like Nancy Pelosi or media who are saying, after living here for many years, that there is no crime and you're trying to start a new news cycle?
It's another reason why the Democrats lost the election in a landslide. They lie. It's just lie. Look, the crime is very bad. I think they'd be much better off saying, we want to help President Trump with the crime because it's an epidemic. It's a tragic situation. It's the worst it's ever been. And we want to help President Trump with the crime, as opposed to, he's a dictator. He's a dictator. People are so happy to see our military going into D.C. and getting these thugs out. As you know, we arrested a lot of people yesterday. We arrested a lot of people today. We're getting people that have arrest records that you wouldn't believe. 28 arrests, 15 arrests, brutal, brutal people. And we're going to have to do something about this cashless bail, because people shoot somebody, they kill somebody, and they're out on the street in less than an hour. Now, that's when it's all started in New York, in Chicago, Los Angeles. You take a look. If we didn't go to Los Angeles to help this incompetent governor and a mayor that doesn't know what the hell she's doing, if we didn't go to Los Angeles, you wouldn't have a big part of it burned down. The other part of it would have burned down too. You would have not had, I don't think you would have been able to have the Olympics. We have the Olympics. I have a lot at stake with that because I'm the one that got the Olympics. I got it in my first term. And I was saddened because I got it for what would be my third term, okay, which turned out to be second term. And the Olympics, it's a great honor, but I felt badly because I said I won't be president when the Olympics came. Well, through circumstance, I am president. I want to make sure the Olympics is great, the World Cup is great, and the 250, maybe the most important of all, is the 250-year celebration is great. So what's happening is we will work very hard. You would not have had, I don't believe that if I didn't send in the troops, I don't think you would have had Los Angeles in condition to have the Olympics. I think you would have had to tell them, I'm sorry, you're going to have to go someplace else. And if you look at the police commissioner or the sheriff, he said, we really needed them. Thank God they were here. We really needed them. That was the first 2 or 3 days. After we solved their problems, then he said, well, I think we could have maybe done it. No, he was told what to say. He said, you go back to your files and see what he said. He said, thank goodness they came. If I didn't go and put our military there, or National Guard in that case, and we'll go military if we have to, but the National Guard went there. They were very effective. If we didn't do that, I don't think you would have had the Olympics in Los Angeles. The place would have been just like the 25,000 houses that burned down, where, by the way, the governor ought to focus on getting their permits. You know, the federal permits are given. Those are the hard ones, and they were given a long time ago. People can't rebuild their house because they can't get permits from the state and the city, and they ought to focus on that because it's very upsetting. I went there right after the fires. I walked the streets, and I met a lot of great people that want to rebuild their homes. We took care of it from the federal standpoint, but they're not taking care of it from the city side, the mayor and the governor. They're not getting their permits. They can't build their houses.
Mr. President,
Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, thank you. Do you think this summit and the incentives for peace you are putting on the table could end up rewarding Putin for his invasion of Ukraine? And what kind of signal do you think that could potentially send to other aggressors?
No, I don't think it's a reward. I think that what we have is a situation that should never have started. Should have never started. It didn't start under me, and for 4 years it wasn't even discussed. And I could see it was going to happen after I left. I could see what was happening. Everything that we did was wrong. Everything that was done was wrong. Everybody's to blame. Putin's to blame. They're all to blame. This is a war that would have never happened.
Mr. President, we have a question on LA. Mr. President, earlier today, the Washington, D.C. police chief issued an executive order allowing metropolitan police officers conducting traffic stops to notify federal immigration and customs enforcement about undocumented immigrants that they encounter. Yet the city has a long-standing pro-immigration policy, including allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections.
Which is ridiculous.
And limiting cooperation with federal immigration agencies.
Right.
Did your administration pressure the D.C. police chief to review and repeal these policies? And will you require other cities to roll back similar policies to avoid possible federal takeover of local law enforcement?
So what you're saying is that it was a very positive thing. When they stop people, they find they're illegal, they report them, they give them to us, etc. That's a very positive thing. I have heard that. It just happened. That's a great step. That's a great step if they're doing that. Yeah, I think that's going to happen all over the country. We want to stop crime. I think if the Democrats aren't strong on this issue, they won't be able to do it. I think this is a bigger issue than all of the other ridiculous things that they, like open borders. Well, open borders is bad. Open borders has caused a lot of this problem, allowing millions and millions. I think 24 million people were allowed to come into our country. Many of these people from prisons, from jails, from mental institutions. This was the Biden policy. And I don't believe it was him. He was never there before. It was the people that encircled this very beautiful desk, the Resolute desk. Radical left lunatics who were smart, but radical left. And I'm very happy to hear what you just said, because I've heard that.
And Mr. President, on LA, if I may, the mother of a 15-year-old California boy was briefly detained at gunpoint in a case of mistaken identity. The LAUSD superintendent says that surveillance video shows armed agents wearing police and border patrol insignia. Given the National Guard, the Border Control, ICE agents, they're not trained in local policing. What specific steps are you taking to ensure that young people are not put in harm's way with these types of operations?
You know, what they are trained in is common sense, and they're very tough people. And they have great common sense, and they are highly trained. I heard the mayor of LA was saying, oh, they're not trained this way. I heard this character from, where was he from? They talk about him as a candidate. He's got no chance. The governor of Maryland, I watched him this morning saying that the governor of Maryland, yeah, they say maybe he'll be a president. He's not presidential timber at all. But I heard him today talking about how the National Guard or the military is not trained in police, but they're trained in common sense, and they're trained in not allowing people to burn down buildings and bomb buildings and shoot people and all of the things. They've done a great job. Again, if we didn't send them, and very importantly, if we didn't send them into Los Angeles, the rest of Los Angeles would have been burned down to the ground. When you look at Minnesota, Minneapolis, I sent them into Minneapolis because the governor wouldn't make the call. If I didn't do that, you wouldn't have a Minneapolis. It wouldn't be, I don't think it would be existent today. You remember the famous scene burning over the CNN anchor's shoulder. He said, everything seems to be very peaceful. And behind him, the whole city's burning down. So you had the whack job governor who ran for vice president and made a fool out of himself. You would have had. I saved that city. I'll tell you, I saved that city. So the bottom line is, these are very tough people that are trained in a thing called common sense, and they're also trained in doing what we're talking about right now. And you watch crime stop, but you wouldn't have Los Angeles. It wouldn't be existent today. We would have had to cancel the Olympics if I let that go on.
Mr. President, will you pressure Israel to allow journalists into Gaza to cover the humanitarian efforts the U.S. is pursuing? And
I'd like to see that happen, sure.
I
would like to see it happen. I would be very fine with journalists going in. It's a very dangerous position to be in, as you know, if you're a journalist. But I would like to see it.
And on tariffs, Brazil, Mexico, and Latin America are getting closer to China, and they say it's partly because of the tariffs you're imposing those countries. Are you concerned them getting closer to China?
No, not at all. I'm not concerned at all. They can do what they want. None of them are doing very well, and what we're doing in terms of economics, we're blowing everyone away, including China. We're doing better than any other country in the world right now. Brazil has been a horrible trading partner in terms of tariffs. As you know, they charge us tremendous tariffs, far, far more than we were charging them. We weren't charging anything, essentially. And Brazil has some very bad laws happening where they took a president and they put him in jail, or they're trying to jail him. And I happen to know the man, and I will tell you, I'm pretty good at people. I think he's an honest man. I think what they've done, this is really a political execution that they're trying to do with Bolsonaro. I think that's terrible. But they also treated us very badly as trading partners for many, many years. One of the worst countries on earth for that. They charged tremendous tariffs, and they made it very difficult to do anything. So now they're being charged 50% tariffs, and they're not happy, but that's the way it goes.
Mr. President, on DC crime, are you concerned at all that some federal officers that are helping DC police might be being pulled away from other high priority assignments?
Like what?
Terrorism, for example.
Oh, really? Terrorism? They'll stop terrorism as part of what they're doing right now. No. The soldiers that we have, first of all, we have plenty of them, long beyond what that you have here. We're just using a very small force. In Washington, D.C., they have thousands of police. They have a lot of police, but the police weren't allowed to do their job. We have a lot of great ones, and you have some that weren't so good, to be honest, but they weren't allowed to do their job. But now they are allowed to do their job, and essentially it's only 2 days, but you look at the numbers already, they're dropping. And no, they're not being pulled off for anything.
Mr. President, as you know, there were some very concerning reports about crime statistics. Police are manipulating crime data to downplay crime in D.C. Will the administration release its own crime statistics to counter their misinformation? And will those individuals who are intentionally misrepresenting crime data and fudging the books, like you said, be penalized for endangering the public?
They are under investigation right now. They are giving us phony crime stats, just like they gave other stats in the financial world, but they're phony crime stats. And Washington, D.C. is at its worst point, and it will soon be at its best point. You're going to have a very safe, you're going to have a crime-free city. I mean, I say that. You're going to have virtually a crime-free city. And these are strong men, but the criminals are strong men and women, but they're strong men. And these are people that don't play games. We're not playing games. These are criminals we're dealing with. And they treated people. They took one of the people that worked for us the other day. You saw the beating, the pounding, 10 against 1. And they pounded the hell out of him. He's lucky to be alive. He's barely, almost killed. And we're not going to have that happening, please.
Mr. Tulsi Gabbard declassified more documents last night related to the Russiagate hoax.
She's doing a great job, by the way. That was another fake story. I'm very happy with the job she's doing. That's right. They declassified some terrible documents talking about Democrats and what they did. Radical left lunatics.
It showed that then DNI James Clapper sent out emails to IC officials saying that it would be a team sport to push then the debunked 2017 ICA report, and that it might need them to compromise on their normal modalities. What's your reaction to the latest declassification? And in your view, sir, what does real accountability look like for players?
It's incredible what we're finding. Absolute proof of guilt. and we'll see what happens. But Clapper and Comey and that whole group of criminals, they're criminals, and they made it very tough. You know, they did the fake Russia witch hunt that lasted for 2 years, and that was taken care of.
Mr. President, does Putin have a strong hand tomorrow?
Well, he came to our country, and I heard CNN fake news talking about that was a big win for him. Normally, he would say the opposite, but they said, oh, it's a big win that he came here. Normally, he would say the opposite, you know, he came here. I think that President Putin would like to see a deal. I think if I weren't president, he would take over all of Ukraine. It's a war that should have never happened. If I weren't president, in my opinion, he would much rather take over all of Ukraine. But I am president, and he's not going to mess around with me.
Mr. President, on Russia, Mr. President, would you support or agree to reducing NATO troops in Europe, in countries like Poland, in order to get Russia to agree to a peace deal?
That hasn't been put before me, and I'll think about that for later, but it has not been put before me. Go ahead.
Is anything less than an unconditional and immediate ceasefire a victory for the U.S.?
Tomorrow?
Yes.
Well, tomorrow we'll see. I say, you know, I don't know where that comes from. Sort of not a good question. I would say that tomorrow all I want to do is set the table for the next meeting, which should happen shortly. I'd like to see it happen very quickly, very shortly after this meeting. I'd like to see it actually happen maybe in Alaska, where we just stay because it's so much easier. But I think that it's going to be very interesting. We're going to find out where everybody stands, and I'll know within the first 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or 5 minutes, like we tend to find out whether or not we're going to have a good meeting or a bad meeting. And if it's a bad meeting, it'll end very quickly. And if it's a good meeting, we're going to end up getting peace in the pretty near future. Okay? How about one more?
Mr. President, on the Smithsonian?
Thank you, Mr. President. On the Smithsonian, I know that your administration is seeking to weed out a lot of this left-wing spin that's in the museums, but we're seeing from people like Brian Stelter or other commentators that they're insinuating that you are trying to change history according to your narrative. What's your response to that, and is there anything you'd particularly like to take a
We
look
want
at?
the museums to treat our country fairly. We want the museums to talk about the history of our country in a fair manner, not in a woke manner or in a racist manner, which is what many of them, not all of them, but many of them are doing. Our museums have an obligation to represent what happened in our country over the years, good and bad, but what happened over the years in an accurate way. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. President, how do you reconcile that, though?
Thank you.